And we're back. Thank you again for visiting the Critics Clinic to get your prescriptions for all things movie, TV, and entertainment. If you want to keep getting your prescriptions, as always, please click that button below. Subscribe, comment, like, go look at my other videos. Do the exact same thing. We're here today to talk about Wolfman. I saw this movie recently, wanted to give it a quick just rundown, quick review. A lot of scary movies out right now, so it's a little overwhelming because I'm still kind of in the Christmas mode. I don't know why. So, went to see Wolfman again, as always. If you don't want a synopsis, if you don't want any spoilers, fast forward a couple of minutes. I will put the time below what you need to skip to avoid any spoilers, just to get to my honest and official, non-biased review. So for a quick rundown, movie revolves around a character named Blake, played by a lesser-known actor, Christopher, who's a child with his father in the woods. They're hunting. Something's hunting them. They run into a deer box. It's like an animal, but they don't actually show it initially. The father looks very terrified. They go back home. He radios his friend and is like, I've seen it. I've seen the Wolfman. And so that kind of leads you to believe, okay, this thing is real. Because at the beginning of the movie, they have this little one-sentence blurb about the people in the mountains, or in the farmland, whatever. They believe in this thing about a man with a wolf, and they're like, the indigenous people call it the man with the wolf's face. Anyway, fast forward to this. The son overhears this and is terrified. The father gets very anxious about this, and then the scene cuts, and it's 30 years later. They're in the big city. Blake's character is an adult. He has his daughter. They're walking the streets. They get home, and in comes Julia Garner's character. Her name is Charlotte. You find out throughout their exchange that they're having some marital problems. They're kind of at odds. There's a lot of tension. He states that his father has been pronounced dead. She looks very concerned and is like, what do we do? How are you feeling? And then they kind of go on to say, hey, we're having some issues. We're not happy in our marriage. Let's go to the family house. I have to claim it and clean it up anyway and pack up all the belongings. So we'll do a whole weekend of it. Fast forward to them actually driving through these mountains in a U-Haul, a very large U-Haul. They run into his old childhood friend, gets in the car to help show him where the new trail is, because it's a little different than he remembers it being when he was younger. They're driving through. All of a sudden, there's this character in the middle of the street as it's getting dark, which causes him to veer off the side of the road, over the side of the entire mountain. The truck completely hurls down the mountain. The friend is hurled out of the truck and is pulled away by this kind of seedy-looking character, which looks like a monster. You can't really tell. But Blake, Charlotte, and their child Ginger escape, and they run, and they finally find the family home. They get in there. The rest of the movie really is about them trying to escape the monster, which you find out is a werewolf. Somehow, it scratches Blake, and part of the movie is Blake transforming, and Charlotte's character trying to cope with him and keep him here, but there's the exchanges where they show Blake's point of view. He's not able to understand human speech anymore, and their eyes are blurred out, and they look kind of like, it looks like the Upside Down kind of in Stranger Things when they show his point of view, but then when they go back to Julia Garner's point of view, it's normal, and Blake sounds like a monster when he's talking, and it just sounds like slurred speech. I thought that was an interesting take. Later on, the original werewolf that attacked them on the way there, on the road, is fighting to get into the house, and Blake's character is turning into a werewolf and is defending his family. They're attacking. Eventually, Blake's werewolf kills this unknown werewolf, and then once he's dead, you see there's a tattoo on his arm that is actually the tattoo that belongs to Blake's father. So Blake's father was not actually dead. He was a werewolf the whole time and had transformed and was trying to get into his house and was trying to kill these people that were in his house, which happened to be his family, unbeknownst to him, because he's a werewolf, and he cannot communicate with them because he cannot hear human speech anymore, as I detailed earlier. Once the dad dies, the movie settles into where Blake's character also dies, when Julia Garner's left with her daughter. And that's really the end of the movie. It kind of ends abruptly, honestly. So now on to my categories in terms of giving it a prescription for what would I rate this movie. Cast and crew is always going to be number one. It's going to make or break a movie. You know how I feel about cast and crew. So now we're going to start with Julia Garner, who's Charlotte, who's the wife. You all know her from Ozark. You're gonna have to kill me! That is a classic line. I don't care what anybody says. Excellent show. If you haven't seen Ozark, stop this and go watch Ozark now. I think she really carried the movie. Her back has got to be hurting because she was really the only person who came to act in this movie. Everybody else, there's a lot of no-name characters, I would say, people we've never seen. The daughter was extremely annoying in her acting role. It's going to be very asinine if you're watching this movie. They just so many things she does that you just want to, like, you know. You can't discipline a child. I don't know what you would do. Put her in a corner. I don't know. She was very annoying. I did not enjoy her character at all. Christopher Abbott's character, Blake, who was the main protagonist, he did a decent job. He really didn't, like, salvage the movie in terms of his acting prowess. Really, the only person who was carrying the movie in terms of their acting role was Julia Garner. She's an excellent actress. She really transforms anything. She's a very different actress than what she was doing in, say, Ozark, where she had a very thick country accent, or she had that kind of, like, offset German accent playing Anna Delvey and Inventing Anna on Netflix. Go watch that, too. So I would say from that standpoint, I'm giving it a 1 out of 2, only because of Julia Garner. When we're talking about plot, woo. The plot definitely had some plot holes. Lots of holes. One, I don't really know whether there was ever a chance where the initial werewolf actually cuts Blake and got him infected, because they were never in close proximity at all. In the truck where it flipped over, he was very far from the monster at that time. So that was odd. Him not even knowing where he's going, and he grew up in this land, was very weird as well. He didn't know where he was. It was so strange. There were just a lot of plot holes in terms of, like, what was going on? What were they doing? Why were they still staying there? There was a point where Julia Garner's character goes outside with the daughter, and Blake, who's, like, half transformed, they get to the truck's not starting. Finally it starts, but the other werewolf, who's Blake's father, breaks into the windshield, and they run out of the car, and they do this whole roundabout way to try and get away from the werewolf, and then they kind of go back in the house, and they just leave the car, and the car is just non-existent for the rest of the movies. I thought that was odd to not get back in the car and drive away. I don't know, I would probably escape and not go back into the house where the monster could kill you. I don't know. I felt like there were a lot of plot holes. I wanted it to be good because I love horror movies. I love old school horror. This just was not it. Lots of plot holes. I'm giving it a 1 out of 2. For set design, production, the set was good enough. It felt like you were in a small little town in the woods. That part was good, and if it were just based on that, I'd give it a 2, but it's not. It's also based on the production, so the lighting, the makeup, things like that. Some of the lighting was actually great. There were some really old school horror motifs where it got really dark and then it kind of scaled away, which I liked. But then other times, it was a little bit of a letdown. There were some lull periods where the lighting was just very odd. I thought the showing his point of view when he was seeing from Blake as turning into a werewolf was kind of cheesy. And then his makeup, the prosthetics on both of the werewolves was a bit cheesy, and not like in a fun, campy horror way. It was more like a just poorly done. So I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 2. We're not looking so good so far, because we're at a 3. I would say in terms of the music, though, the music was actually the star of the movie. It was excellent. Whoever composed this, kudos to you, because it gave you that fear, it gave you that anxiousness, that anticipation. So I really enjoyed that. I would say from that standpoint, I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 2. So we're at a 5 right now. My overall enjoyability, how much did I enjoy the movie? I would say there were parts I enjoyed. Again, I love horror. Some of the acting was a bit off. Some of the costume design was a little too campy for me. The plot just did not flow. You found yourself trying to wonder what was happening. What are we doing here? Why are we not running away? And just the story itself about the werewolf, there was really no backstory. Was it even a werewolf? Did he just have some virus? They didn't really explain it at all, so I'd say it lacked from that standpoint. Overall, it was enjoyable. It wasn't the greatest horror movie I've ever seen. There have been way better werewolf movies. I would say I would give it a 1 out of 2 from that standpoint. So the total all prescription, I would give it pretty low, unfortunately. This one might be DNR. It's a 6 out of 10. I would say if you have a lot of free time, go watch it. Maybe wait till it comes out on streaming. This is not one I would run to go see. I would say the box office actually represents how good this movie is, which is not very good. So let me know in the comments what you thought, what I missed, what I got right, what I got wrong, and we'll go from there.